Hello and welcome to the second episode of the OWLS podcast. Today you will meet the incomparable Robin Phoenix Johnson, retired Army officer and comedian. She met with us on May 6th of this year, and she just has such a wonderful way of approaching humor and using it as a tool to lead. Enjoy the session. Thanks.
Hello and welcome. I am Susan Phelan. Academy Women is a 501c3 nonprofit organization launched in 2003 to bring together a community of American military and veteran women leaders from all services and commissioning sources for mentoring, training, and growth opportunities. Together, we can achieve our highest potential by sharing research, insights, and lessons learned to help tackle the unique challenges we face as service leaders. If you are considering a career transition or know somebody who is, be sure to explore our career transition tab on our website, www.militaryowls.org. Thank you all for joining us for the second of 8 events in the 2025 OWLS virtual series. To ensure the OWLS 2025 experience is as accessible as possible, we've transitioned to a virtual format. Today's discussion will be the second of 8 monthly events. The OWLS virtual series convenes experts, thought leaders, and innovators with members of the military, government, and veteran community to explore emerging trends, strengthen skills, and transform observations into actionable insights to lead positive change. For those who would like to revisit the insights and recommendations shared today, we are recording today's event and will make the video recording and a podcast version available on our website at militaryowls.org. You will meet our keynote speakers shortly, but first I would like to introduce Elizabeth Auld, who will be your moderator today. Elizabeth is an Air Force veteran, an industry leader, and the chair of the Officer Women Leadership Symposium. A very special thanks goes out to Elizabeth and our Academy Women Board of Directors, who volunteered countless hours to produce this programming designed to inspire and empower our community of military and veteran women leaders as we navigate career challenges and work toward our personal and professional goals. We have a real treat planned for you today, so let's get started. Please join me in welcoming Elizabeth Auld to the virtual stage. Enjoy the discussion, everyone. Elizabeth, over to you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Today we are doing session 2 of OWLS 2025. Our overall theme is connecting, and today our session is called Connect with Self, leveraging humor as a tool for healing and growth. In today's world, leaders must adapt and build resilience in order to thrive and survive. This session explores how to harness humor to enhance your mindset, boost emotional resilience, and foster personal growth. Today, we'll learn how to use humor as a powerful tool for healing, navigating obstacles, and maintaining balance in high-pressure situations. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Robin Phoenix Johnson. She served 26 years as an Army Logistician, including 5 deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. She is now a stand-up comedian touring worldwide with Armed Forces Entertainment. She's a Hoover Institution Fellow at Stanford University, where she is a subject matter expert on the applied and therapeutic use of humor for improved performance. She serves as faculty for both Thayer Leadership at West Point and the Institute for Defense and Business. She guest lectures at the College of Charleston and Stanford Medical School. It is my pleasure to introduce Robin Phoenix Johnson.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you. That was very nice, Elizabeth. I hope you guys will help me monitor the chat. I'm trying to. What's up, Nevada? I see you, Virginia, Connecticut. I see the numbers growing. This is awesome. By the way, I'm just glad this is virtual because I do not have to wear Spanx today. And I usually do when I perform because when I get out of the military, I don't do PT as much. And I put on a little extra. I'm like 165, but I identify as 145. And I normally will wear some shapewear. And I know some of y'all had done some shapewear in your life. And if you've done it, it takes forever to get it in. It's like a whole thing to get it all in. You get all those things tucked. And then you realize that if you have to pee, there's just one little button. And if you unsnap it, it's like a can of Pillsbury biscuits. Like it's not going back in the can. Okay. This is very refreshing. I got my stretchy moo dress on today. I was telling Elizabeth and Susan that for Mother's Day, my husband installed a bidet in our master bath, and I almost didn't make it because I was so excited about that. I don't know how I ever lived without a heated seat, but it is pretty awesome. But it is good to be here. We're going to talk about some humor. We're going to tell some jokes. We're going to have some fun. But what I really want to do, because this is such a professional organization, is to also talk about some of the business. Like they say show business. There's a lot of business in show business. In fact, I'd say 80% of what I do is business and 20% is entertainment. And so I'd love to answer your questions about what that's like creating your own company, especially one that's around you as a person and as an entertainer. I think if somebody would have told me this stuff a few years ago, I'd probably be in a lot better place. I might have had a Netflix special. Who knows? But I don't. We're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen right now and let you guys see some of these slides that I put together. I don't like to do death by PowerPoint, but you all should be viewing now. This is hilarious mental fitness, improving mental fitness with humor. And it's awesome because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And so May is a lot of observances. I think it's also National Nurses Week and Military Appreciation Month. And so we're covering a lot of bases, but I want to start by just sharing a little bit about what I like to call rules of engagement. Now, fortunately, you guys are virtual. So if I say a joke or something you don't like, you can't Will Smith slap me. I know you probably think that's never happened to me before, but I actually did almost one time get in trouble because I said something somebody didn't like. So now I have to do all these nice jokes that I had to go through like training to be corporate clean and politically correct. And so now like because I got in trouble because I said the word retarded, and you're not allowed to say that. You have to say Naval Academy grads. It's so challenging. I also normally, if I could just get in the chat, how many Marines we have on? Because I think we might have some Marines. I really need to know if you could just put in there how many Marines we have. Hi, Angelina Young. May's my birthday month too, but I'm going to be flying to Australia on my birthday. I leave the day before my birthday and land the day after. Because of the time zone change, it skips my birthday. So I feel like I'm not turning 49. I'm going to be just 48 for another year. That's great. I don't see any Marines in there. I know that seems like a silly question to ask, but honestly, I need to know how slow I need to talk. I'm just kidding, you guys. I love the Marines. I have a lot of wonderful Marine friends. In fact, if we have to all be honest, between the branches of service, the Marines look the best in their uniform. They are the most fit of all the branches. I don't think anybody can deny that. And I will tell you, traveling across the world, it does not matter where I am. Every hotel gym I go to, there is a Marine working out, and you can tell who they are because they have their medium shirt on that says Semper Fi, and they've got these jacked biceps and veins bulging out of their neck, and they're just sweating all over the equipment like they own the whole gym. And then I have to do the awkward thing and say, excuse me, ma'am, but I'd like to get to the Peloton. I know you're thinking like, I don't look like I use a Peloton. Honestly, I only use the Peloton because I want to know what it feels like to be in the Air Force. Thank you. I know somebody is laughing about that. I'm not saying that all of you guys that in the Air Force have Pelotons. I'm just saying that once you own a Peloton, you too can feel like a part of a community that also thinks it's better than everyone else. I do like to make fun of the Air Force, and we're all aware that they have better quality of life. And I get a little jealous. And this banter, the service banter is funny. We're allowed to do it with each other. Heaven forbid a civilian make fun of any of us, because then we would stick together and we would bow up on them. Like, you can't make fun of the Air Force. If you didn't serve, you're not allowed to make fun. But if you're in opposite branches, of course you can. And I think it's hilarious how we have different terms for the same exact thing. I was just telling you about my bidet. It's just super fancy. It makes me feel like I'm the Air Force. I'm serious. Like in the Army, we say latrine, and then the Navy, they say the head. And in the Marine Corps, somebody told me they called it cooking chili because they just went into a hole in the ground and then they burned it, which is why I don't eat chili and didn't join the Marine Corps. And of course, in the Air Force, you guys call it a bidet. So very different terms, same thing, but we all at the end of the day are doing the same mission, serving our country. And so it's okay to have a little friendly back and forth. All right. So we've got the rules of engagement out of the way. I'm going to try to tell some funny jokes, have a good time, and answer your questions. All right. So let's start with the beginning. Of course, they mentioned, sorry, Elizabeth mentioned that I served in the military, which I joined when I was 17. I was an enlisted soldier first, but I wasn't a good one. I was one of those enlisted soldiers that made sergeants nervous and chaplains pray harder. I was an E4 twice, if that tells you anything. But somehow that was supposed to be my path because I ended up still, by the grace of God, I have no idea how becoming an officer and then continuing to serve over 20 years on active duty as an officer. So it happens. Now I show these pictures because it shows the three different, I felt like I was in just different uniforms. I had so many different uniforms. You see the really old ones and then the Desert Storm era, like kind of ones. And then the bottom one was the most recent. And anyway, I show these because some of these pictures were serious. And then there's this one fun one. And it's actually in a deployment. This was the last day of a year-long deployment. And my soldiers have been trying to prank me for the whole year. I was their company commander. And they finally got me. And you could see that they have taken 100-mile-per-hour tape and wrapped it around me and left me tied up. But I'm laughing because it was hilarious. It was really funny. And what was really great about this moment is that they all worked together to accomplish this. And it took them an entire year, by the way, to get me. It just, for me, really was signifying that our narrative and our story wasn't all negative and sad. And I had gotten a little disappointed, burnout on the veteran story of broken, wounded, homeless, just, and I understand why some organizations share those stories because they're trying to secure funding and sponsorship to help those that need it. But that's not the entire narrative. And so I was very concerned that there was going to be a growing signal divide and a misunderstanding of what our service experience was. The world, especially our own country, needed to see these other moments. And I thought that the view from the comedy stage would be a great way to share some of these funnier stories. And so that's how I got into stand-up. I know you would think logistics, I would go into some corporate logistics job, or I did a lot of work in the talent pipeline, talent recruitment and retention space for Soldier for Life. And no, I wanted to tell jokes. And one of the first jokes that I did, and maybe some of you have heard it, I've been doing it for 6 years. And it's I like to take things that are just normal everyday stories from our service, our day, and then find the funny in them. And in this particular one, it was the moment I was disappointed with my military service or the Army. The first time I ever was, wow, this isn't what I signed up for. I know you guys never had that experience, right? But that first moment was when I arrived to my unit and I thought, okay, I'm going to jump out of airplanes. I'm going to shoot machine guns. I'm going to do some cool stuff. And then they told me that I was going to UPO course and that I was going to be the observer for the female urinalysis test. I was like, wait, what a second. Wait, I'm going to observe other women peeing like that. That's what my country wants me to do. Like thought it was like be all you can be, not pee all you can pee. What is happening? And I was just mortified. I was like, this is awkward for me. This is awkward for her. I don't want to do this. And of course, you can't look away because you have to maintain your eyes on their hoo-ha the entire time. You can't look left. You can't look right. You got to make sure they don't tamper with the specimen. And sometimes they can't go. You got to run the water. You got to talk to them. You got to have a whole conversation. Nobody taught me how to do this. I didn't know that I was going to have to talk to somebody while they peed. And then they get embarrassed and they're like, oh, I didn't do my lady maintenance. And you're just trying to make it to the chow hall before it closes. You're like, I will not judge. I have seen everything. I've been here all day. Please go. And then she pulls down her pants and you're like, oh my gosh. And you're like, that is not a lack of maintenance. That is such a chia pet. What are we doing? And then you tell her she should probably go to sick call. These are the stories that were funny to me. I was like, can't believe at such a young age, that was my mission. And we can laugh in these shared experiences. We've all, if you served, have been on either side of that. Either you were the observer or you're the one going. Ironically, it's a random test. So you don't get picked every month. But for me, there was one period of my life where I got picked every month. I don't know how. And it was the year that I was pregnant, the 9 months that I was pregnant with my son. I'm telling you, every month my name came on the list to pee. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? I'm pregnant with a child. Do you really think I'm doing correct? I don't think so. But I just find the irony in those things and really thought that they were funny stories. And not all of your stories have to be like that. They can also be silly, light stories. They can be a little bit of dark humor. I know my friend Christine and she thought I was so silly because we were deployed together. And I said, if we get mortared and I'm in the porta potty when it happens and I need you to go and get me and pull whatever's left away from the porta potty, like 50 feet, because I am not getting a poo heart. Okay. That is not what they're going to say about me. No. And so she promised that if she did it for me, she would do it for, vice versa. Those are like the little light stories. Again, a little bit of dark humor, but also the way we cope with the day-to-day stress and just a very long deployment. And I was really enjoying doing comedy. I started touring all over the country and then eventually overseas with Armed Forces Entertainment. And it was awesome. Getting to make people laugh and to do that was so great. But it wasn't as much impact as you can go make people laugh and then it's like over, it's gone. And so I really thought, how could I do more? And around this time, my friend Brian took his life by suicide and we had served in the Army together. And I was super angry. I wanted to be part of the solution, wanted to figure out how I could help. So I thought, what if I took comedy and humor and I helped these negative thoughts, these depression, anxiety? What can we do to leverage it for good? Because we know that untreated depression is the number one cause of suicide. So what is depression? Negative thought patterns, just on repeat. Some even things like even what we call cognitive distortions, which so many women struggle with: feeling mom guilt, imposter syndrome, all those things. Those are all cognitive distortions. They're essentially your brain lying to you, and you can allow them to fester and grow, or you can figure out a way to flip that narrative and to control your thoughts in a more positive way. So this is where I started just digging into research, nerding out, if you will. And I saw this quote, and it was by Desmond Tutu. And he said, we have to stop just pulling people out of the river. We have to go upstream, figure out why they're falling in. I was like epiphany, right? It was just a moment of like clarity. It's like, oh my gosh. Now, at this time, there was so much being done to reduce stigma. So a lot of work saying, it's okay if you fall in the river. Some people do. It's not a big deal. We'll pull you out. We'll give you a life jacket. We'll teach you to swim. Don't be ashamed. And that's great. That's totally great. Or, hey, you're in the river. We're going to throw you a life jacket. We're coming for you. Great. But my thought was, why are we letting people get to the edge of the river in the first place? What is being done to be proactive? What is being done from the edge of the river back away in that space? And how do you know how close you are before you fall in? I don't think very many people get to the edge and go, oh, I'm just going to jump in. It's like they fall in because they don't realize that bank is really a slippery slope. Maybe the ground is a little not secure and they don't really mean to, but then they lose their footing and next thing they know, they're in the river and it happens that quick. And so I thought, if that's the case, if I could come up with a metaphor, like a way to explain this to people, then maybe I could help them. And I like to eat a lot. That's not a picture of me eating a donut, but I eat a lot of donuts. And I was eating one day and I started choking and I thought, if I'm choking, you're going to know it. I'm going to be coughing. Maybe my eyes are going to water. I might get red eyes and my body's going to try to get rid of that object. It's going to try to say, I need air. Let's clear the airway. Natural response. If I can't clear it, I know to give the international sign for choking. And you know how to give me the Heimlich maneuver. There's a protocol. There's a process. And it's pretty common. Most people know it. So your chances of dying from choking are very small. But if your brain is choking on negative thoughts, how does anyone know? They can't see that. How do you communicate? There's no international sign for I'm mentally overwhelmed and at a breaking point and I metaphorically can't breathe because it's too much. And there's not a Heimlich maneuver for the brain, a way to instantly dislodge that object and get you some air into your, just say, metaphoric airway of your mind, of your cognitive processes. And so this is where Hilarious was born from, because I believe that laughter is a form of a Heimlich maneuver for the brain. that if you can inject a little positivity, a little humor, a little bit of just seeing the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel, that you can, at least at a minimum temporarily, give somebody the ability to see some relief from whatever's mentally choking them. Now, this is great. I would love that if we could be there immediately when people are in distress. But you know how sometimes when you can't give if you don't have anyone around you to give the Heimlich, let's say you're by yourself, we learn to do what? Lean over a chair, give it to yourself, self-administration. That is what you can do with humor and laughter. And I want to teach it to you, not just for your mental fitness, because that's great for your own resilience and your own toughness, but also so you can help others. You can go back and you can train other people how to do it. And this is not, look, I am not a cognitive behavior therapy inventor. Okay. This CBT, cognitive behavior theory, was invented by someone else. This is not a new concept. Mind over matter and controlling one's thoughts is not original to Robin Johnson. This is something that's been used in therapy for a while and in mental health and treatments for a good amount of time, just not with a twist of humor and joke writing. It's more, there have been other applications very similar, but not so much tied exactly into comedy and joke writing. So that's what makes it unique. What I love about it is it's fun. And so those that may not regularly go and ask for help or want to get care would be more attracted perhaps to a joke writing class or something having to do with comedy and fun and humor, because it doesn't feel like therapy, but yet they're still getting the practical tools to help themselves, to give them to self-administer that Heimlich if they need it. And it also is good, not just for mental fitness, but for leadership. When you're funny or have a good sense of humor, you're more authentic. You are a better leader because you build trust with those around you. You connect. It's actually, there's been tons of studies showing that those that have a good sense of humor tend to have more empathy and are more easily to have a connection with other human beings. And not for nothing, there's also some pretty basic things. Stand-up comedy, it's presence, it's timing, it's reading the room. All of those things equally value in leadership and business. So you really get a 2-for-1. You're welcome. And so we'll continue here now to talk a little bit more. Okay, so they say laughter is the best medicine. That is not true. That is absolutely not true. I've had 2 kids and an epidural is the best medicine. If my husband would have told me a joke when I was pushing out my children, I would have punched him in the face. I can promise you that. I don't want anyone on here who's a clinician or in mental health space. No, I'm not. I'm saying that humor is a good supplement to traditional therapies, treatments, and is a powerful tool. And I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe this. This is not a treatment. So I want to make sure I disclaimer on that. What I think this is a really great way to build your own mental fitness. I'm not a personal trainer, but I know that if I go to the gym every day, and I lift weights, I'm going to build muscle mass and I'm going to tone. And so the same way with building your sense of humor. Before we go further on, Mother's Day is coming up, but I just want to do a couple mom jokes for my moms out there. I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, and my 15-year-old now has her driver's permit, which is awesome. She's good, but she's a little bit bold. And I know I love that about her because I encourage her to take initiative. But what I didn't imply, I did not mean that includes trying to take my car without my permission. I was out of town traveling for speaking, and she decided that she wanted to show off and drive just down the street in our little subdivision, but still, thank God I have a very high-tech anti-theft security device on my vehicle called a clutch, and she didn't get out of the driveway. So we're fine. She's safe. But I feel like being a mom is hard. Like, it's so challenging. And I'm trying to figure out like the new lingo now. She was like, Mom, I want a Stanley Cup. I want a Stanley Cup. And I was like, you don't even play hockey. I don't understand. That's not how it works. But we did get one. Did we get Stanley Cups? I figured out what they were. Let's see what else. Oh, by the way, I'm going to ask you in the chat if you are moms to go ahead and put, I'm a mom. But if you do not have human children and you are only a dog mom, Do not put it in there. I'm going to tell you right now, I have a neighbor who thinks that she is a mom because she has a Chihuahua. Okay, first of all, dog moms are the vegan chicken nuggets of motherhood. It is not the same. I cannot kennel my son. I cannot shock collar my daughter, although I would like to. I will go to jail. Also, if you have a Chihuahua or you have a little dog that requires a sweater, you should kill it, quite frankly. And people are like, oh, Robin, you're so mean. They're like, no, no, I don't hate animals. Okay. They're delicious. No, I just think if you have a dog, it should be like a big dog. Like I have a big dog. Her name is Birdie. I like to call her G-Spot because my husband could never find her. That's probably a little edgy. That probably was too far, but that's okay. It's funny. He hates that joke. Okay, we'll just move right along. I also think that dogs should be big because like my dog, she goes to the bathroom and I have a pooper scooper and I have my kids go around the yard and they got to clean up the poop. And I think that's a great life lesson. But the little dogs, the moms are just going around chasing the dog with a tweezer. It's ridiculous. Yeah, we'll get off the dog things. But to all my moms, happy Mother's Day. I know it's hard work. Maybe you're a soccer mom, a sports mom, if you will. I'm not a good one. If you had to describe me, I am the worst soccer mom because I think you can take the girl out of the army. You can't take the army out of the girl. So my other parents are like, good job, Jordan. Good job, Haley. And I'm screaming at my daughter. I'm like, get up. Do you know how much I paid for this club soccer? Do you know I'm giving up my entire salary? You better wipe that blood off your face. Take some Motrin. Suck it up. That is pretty much why I'm not allowed at the games anymore. But this is all too going to pass. So please, all the moms, please share your love for Mother's Day in the chat. Okay. So back to humor. Why humor? Why not do some other technique? I alluded to it a little bit, but that humor is a superpower. I don't know that I ever got complimented in my time in the Army on any of my evaluations. Did anyone say, wow, Robin, you're really witty. You really read the room. You had really great timing on those remarks, or you're funny. Or you have great empathy, or you're really come across as authentic and you built trust with your soldiers because you have a great sense of humor. No, nobody ever commended me for that. I don't think it's something that was appreciated, or maybe it's still not appreciated. I don't know. So it's not necessarily encouraged, even though it's part of our culture to joke around and banter and to have fun in the military. I don't think as leaders, we often give ourselves permission to be not serious. And I think especially as women, it's even more challenging because we already have to try harder to be respected and to be fierce and to be tough. And so it's really risky to be joking and playful, because if you do that, then you might not be taken seriously. Then you might just be a joke, and you don't want to be that either. So where's that line? And how do you do it well without being over the top and unprofessional? And so that's what I want to get into here. First, stopping at the science. So this isn't just some comedian's theory, like we're going to be funny and it's going to do great things. There's actually 500 studies, or more, actually more than 500 studies on the science behind humor. There is absolutely science that says that the amount of endorphin, serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin that you experience during laughter is actually better than an orgasm. Yes, I said it, and it's true. It's in the science. I can't, that's not my fault. Also, it decreases your unhealthy hormone called cortisol, which causes belly fat. So also good reason to laugh. Lowers pain perception. I'll tell you a story. This is a true story. When I retired from the Army, I was a caregiver for my mother-in-law. She had been diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. And one day she fell and she fractured her femur. So of course I called 911. The paramedics rushed in, and immediately I could see they were extremely good looking. They did not miss a day in the gym, but I was focused on my mother-in-law. And they said, look, we're going to have to move her off the floor onto the stretcher. Could you please distract her? It's going to be a pretty painful move. I said, sure. So I knelt down next to her. I squeezed her hand. I said, Kathy, it's going to be okay. But if I would have known how good looking these paramedics were going to be, I would have pushed you down those stairs a long time ago. I didn't really push her down the stairs. But she laughed. She laughed. And I believe for a brief moment, she was less focused on her pain. I would make her laugh during her recovery. And when she would go through her chemo and her appointments. And the last thing that she said to me before she passed away was, thank you for making me laugh. You have to do this for more people. And so that became my call to action. And I actually had a full-time job at the time that she passed. And I resigned 6 days after her funeral to do what she asked me to do. All this to say, just for those nerds out there who are into the science and don't like being funny, there is evidence behind this. All right. So how does it work? When we're talking about reframing and shifting your thoughts, we're talking about challenging assumptions. A joke structure, when comedians write jokes, they have a setup, they have an assumption, and then they shatter that assumption with the punchline. So the joke that I told earlier when I said, oh, the Marine with the bulging biceps and the veins popping out of their neck and sweating all over the gym. And then I have to say, excuse me, ma'am. Most audiences, this is a little different because you guys are mostly women in this audience. Most audience immediately laugh. Why? Because they thought it was a man. And the punchline is, excuse me, ma'am. And they crack up at it. When you challenge assumptions, if you can challenge this assumption, then it goes to reason that you could challenge another assumption and another assumption, which is not only good for writing jokes, it's really good for challenging. Maybe I don't really stink at whatever it is I've convinced myself that I'm terrible at, or maybe I'm really not afraid of speaking in front of people. Maybe I'm not. What if I wasn't afraid of that? Or if you have a complex problem to solve, maybe if you started challenging assumptions and think like a comedian, you could offer more creative, more innovative solutions to your colleague, supervisor, team. And so the creative energy and the way it gets your brain to think is something that really is often unharnessed and untapped. And I find, at least my experience has been in military audiences in particular, that this is something that is really atrophied. And you ask, why, Robin? Because we do SOPs, manuals. We're really good at dictating processes, procedures, the way you do things, which is brilliant. And it serves a purpose. It also stifles innovation. And not just stifles innovation, but the implementation of innovation, because we have become so rigid and so linear in our thinking that we can't see things from a flip perspective. When I think about a topic I want to write about, if I want to write a joke about being a mom, when I wrote those jokes or those thoughts, I said, what is scary, stupid, weird, and hard about being a mom? And I just mind map. I just write all the things that are in that category. And sometimes they never leave my journal. They just sit there. And then sometimes they make it to the stage. If you take a topic that you are struggling with professionally and you do that, you can start to see some ways out of that. And the funny part of it, I'm going to share a short video, not the whole thing because we're going to be short on time. It's one of my favorite comedians. And it's a great example of he takes something and he flips it around. He makes something so sad and upsetting funny. And you're like, what questions did Jim Gaffigan have to ask himself to come up with this joke? What did he have to do to write this material? And so that's what I want you guys to think about while you're watching this. And I want to say, I was going to minimize this. Let me just.
It's great to be here.
Is it buffering when I do that? Because I'm trying to find it. There it is. All right, we're going to do this one because sometimes it buffers. Here we go. All right, and go.
Been a crazy year for me. Crazy year. I don't know if in April it was discovered my wife had a brain tumor. I'm not even making this up. It was removed. She's great. Everything's good. I didn't remove it. I was in the other room soiling myself, but the tumor is gone, along with my ability to ever win another argument. It's not like I was winning a lot before, but now I'm retired. And luckily, my wife's not the type to bring it up. Once she did, she was like, I did have brain surgery. And I couldn't be like, yeah, that was like a month ago. It's time to move on. What about my seasonal allergies? We all have our cross to bear. It was crazy. The surgeon told me the tumor was the size of a pear, which is scary, but also confusing. I was like, did he go to med school or a farmer's market? But tumors are often compared to fruit. A pear, a lemon, a grapefruit. Interesting fact, worst tumor, grapefruit. Worst fruit, grapefruit. When you think about it, grapefruit looks more like a tumor than a fruit. I just feel sorry for grapefruit. Yeah, we can't win. Yeah? Already the worst fruit. Now we're compared to the worst tumor? At least we help old people poop. That is the worst impression of a grapefruit ever. It's unfortunate that there's another fruit that's much smaller named grape. So there's situations in doctors' offices, we found a tumor, it's the size of a grape. Thank God I didn't finish. Grapefruit. Oh, that's very different. It's strange. When the doctor told me the tumor was the size of a pear, I thought, wow, I guess doctors are bad at analogies. But I quickly realized they're just dumbing it down for idiots like me. Like the surgeon looked at me and thought, this guy's not going to understand centimeters. I don't even want to try and explain circumference. Based on appearance, he doesn't eat fruit. He's probably seen a pear. He's at the grocery store buying ice cream.
All right. Thank you for your patience as I switch back over to the, and I'm trying to get to this right here. Okay. Can you, be better if I move the microphone back, y'all. Can you hear me now? Everybody good? All right. Put in the chat. Make sure you're also with me. Everybody's still awake. All right. I want to just share, I'll go back. I'll just share two stories about how something similar, how you would reframe thoughts. And when I work with veterans, they're all different, but they're coming in with something that's maybe bothering them and they're stressed. And so we had one guy and he came in and he was legally blind. And he said, I'm not in the mood to write jokes today, Miss Robin. I'm just sitting here in the back. I've had a really rough morning. I said, what's going on? He said, my wife and I got in a fight. She doesn't get me. She doesn't know what it's like to live my life. And I said, tell me more. So we wrote this joke together. And the joke is, my name is Melvin. I've been legally blind for 6 years. But this morning, my wife asked me if I'd seen her keys. Nope. Then she asked me if I'd seen her glasses. Nope. Then she asked me, do I look fat in this dress? Yep. Melvin laughed so hard at that joke and it just caused the tension. And you could tell that he was so less upset about this dynamic between his wife and him having this conflict. He was actually laughing about it. And I get it. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I can teach this really well. Sometimes I don't heed my own advice. So not long after this situation with Melvin, I decide to take my entire family to Disney because I'm stupid. I planned the whole trip. I was so excited. It was, you guys, I had a 15-page operations order for this thing. Okay. It was detailed. And I was so excited because my kids had never been. It was their first time. We were going to go during COVID. It got canceled. So this was like their first time. And we get in line for Avatar, which was the number one ride that I wanted to go on because I'd never been on it. And my husband, by the way, there was a lot of whining, crying, and complaining before we even got to Avatar. And that was just my husband. And he says, are we seriously going to wait 2 hours for a 5-minute ride? And I was mad, seething. And I thought, Robin, write a joke about it, write a joke about it, write a joke about it. And so I did. And I was like, oh, really? Really? Because the 5 minutes, I was like, we've been married for over 20 years and all I've ever gotten are 5-minute rides. And his eyes got real big and he started cracking up. And then before you know it, we were both cracking up. And then we spent the entire 2 hours in line, like building out this entire set of jokes about Disney, which was good because I didn't have to kill him that way. That's one way. And then I'll share a more sad, sober one. We are a community that uses dark humor quite often. And one of my veterans that attended my sessions, unfortunately, he was really struggling. And even with coming to the sessions, he fell into the river. He shot himself in the chin, ricocheted off of his dental work, exited out his cheek. So his wife calls me and she says, "Hey, he shot himself." And I said, "What?" I was so shocked. I just saw him. He seemed to be fine. And she said, "He would like to see you. He doesn't want any visitors except for me and you and the kids. And even the kids, he doesn't really want to see right now." And I said, "Okay." She's like, he asked one thing. He said, "Tell her not to feel pity for me and to come make him laugh." I said, "Okay, I'll do my best. What do you do in that situation?" So went to the hospital and I walked in and I was like, "You are literally the only guy that I know that gets cuter after an injury." And he's, "What are you talking about?" He has all this gauze in his mouth and stuff, but he has just like little dimple now. He just got this like cute little dimple. I'm like, and so he grinned a little bit about that. And then I said, "Okay, I don't mean to be rude, but you told me that you were in the Marine Corps. I'm going to need to see your paperwork for that because you missed." "Really? Were you?" And he cracked up laughing so much. Like his eyes were like just tears, just laughing. And then the last joke that I did for him was, "Hey, I know Marines are a little slow, but when I told you that if you got into comedy, you would have to get headshots, wasn't being literal." And he also laughed at that. Again, very dark humor, but with good timing. And when asked for, it can be very healing and helpful to diffuse just a lot of pain that someone's going through. So I'm going to change now to the business side and then open it up for questions because I want to make sure I cover both mental health and the business. So they say there's no business like show business. And I will say that what I had to learn in this was that I'm essentially running a company, that I am my brand. That was not a comfortable place for me at the beginning because you got to be very out there. You've got to have headshots and you got to present and be a certain way when you're an entertainer. And that's a little bit stressful. It's not inexpensive because I got to get the Botox and everything. And so there was a lot that I had to do with like how I was going to market myself, my logo, my design, my website. How do I build an identity? How do I advertise? And so this process really, it's probably a whole nother session that we could do, but I want to just touch on it briefly so that you'll be able to think about questions asked in Q&A. But essentially, when you're building your brand, you want to be like, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? What are you known for? And the first thing that you have to do is figure out, what problem do I solve? When you're marketing yourself as a service-based business, what problem do you solve for your client? Why you? How are you unique than anybody else? Who else is doing it? It's basically assessing your competitors, becoming a subject matter expert, becoming the best in your field, and of course, trying to reach and expand your clientele. And so a lot of that social media, which I was terrible at before I got out of the military, because that was not something that the Army really was very big fans of us being on open and out and about on social media. In fact, I would argue that as a senior leader, I got less and less present on social media. So thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah. So what I would like to do, and again, that's a whole nother session. I'm happy to come back and do another session on that, but I wanted to just mention it in case you had questions. So why don't I've got about 10 minutes for Q&A and we'll do that. And then I'll turn it back over to our lovely hosts, Elizabeth and Susan. Questions in the chat, or you can make me tap dance. Okay. Do you recommend a speakers bureau? What is the favorite way to get gigs? I have not been accepted at any speakers bureaus except for Thayer Leadership, which is like one. So I'm on faculty there. There's definitely some very nice ones. I've applied to some and I'm in the process of consideration for a couple, but I haven't heard back yet. I actually get most of mine word of mouth and from previous clients, because when you can deliver something that is inspiring and funny and also gives them some tools, it tends to be a pretty welcome presentation. Also, I use bark.com, and that is a free platform, but you pay for the leads. And so think of like Tinder or a dating profile, but for speakers and for people that want to hire speakers. It's like matchmaking. So it says, oh, you're a funny speaker that talks about mental fitness, and oh, they want that type of person. And then they introduce you, and you can either swipe left or swipe right. But if you swipe, you get to pay. So that's that one. So those are the two. All right. What's a joke that absolutely bombed? Oh, yeah. I can tell you this one. All right. Don't judge me because it's probably still going to bomb, but that's okay. This joke is that I went to a political conference and there was all these campaign managers there and they were bipartisan. So they didn't agree on a lot of things, but the one thing they agreed on is that they could not stand the candidates' spouses. I thought, well, that's weird. And I was like, why? And they said, oh, because they have good idea fairies and they think they're the campaign managers and they tell their spouse what to do. I said, gosh, still, like you would have thought we would have learned our lesson, like Mary Todd Lincoln. Abe, it wouldn't kill you to take me to the theater once in a while. Or Jackie O. John, wouldn't it be awesome if we just took the convertible to Dallas? Or Melania says, honey, these look so orange. I think you need new headshots. That was not a political joke. It's just a joke. Anyway, it bombed, as you can see why. I should have probably read the room was mostly Republican, but that's okay. So how do you deal with hecklers? First rule of thumb with hecklers, I see I missed one too. So I'm trying to make, if I miss one, Elizabeth, just remind me. Hecklers, ignore them. Usually ignore them. That's because all they want is attention. A heckler is acting out because they want the audience to shift their attention from the person on the stage to them. And if you give them that power, they will continue to heckle. And so that's usually the way. The second way is to go for the jugular. I will, if somebody's being completely obnoxious, I will just do a very quick, kind of like I do with my kids. Like I give them that look like, I know you didn't. And it's, my kids know, so I don't speak very good Spanish, but I know enough that when I start speaking Spanish, they know, oh, heck, it's about to go down. With hecklers, like I had this one lady, she just would not stop. She was super drunk. And I tried to ignore her, but she was in the front and she was loud. And I finally said, Mom, I told you don't have to come to all my shows. And that shut her up pretty good because she was actually younger than me. So she was offended. Are your service jokes ever not well received? And how do you handle that? No, sometimes the dark joke about Brandon, that one sometimes doesn't go over great because maybe somebody's lost somebody's suicide and they think it's insensitive. Sometimes that one doesn't, but I read the room in the sense, obviously I wouldn't know that. You can't read the room and tell who's had that happen, but I try to first share that it comes from a heart of wanting to help people and to encourage people and to meet them where they are and the type of humor they appreciate. And I knew he appreciated dark humor because I had been around him before. And then I also don't do a lot of service jokes for my clients that are not largely military affiliated. So if I'm going to Samsung and it's not a heavy veteran audience, I'm not doing that material. I've got tons of other corporate material that I'll do instead. All right. Let's see. Okay. What's scary about being a solo entrepreneur is being worried that your income will fluctuate. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So I do have a retirement paycheck. I call it my alimony because I feel like my retirement was an amicable divorce from Uncle Sam. Although I shouldn't say Uncle Sam because I would never marry my uncle. But so I have my retirement, my VA disability. And of course I'm married. So I have my husband's retirement as well. And what's his is mine and what's mine is mine. I was in a pretty good place to take some risks there, but it is frustrating. I was just sharing with someone yesterday. I was actually really frustrated because it's inconsistent work. It would be nice to have a reliable income and be able to budget, but you just never know. And also my stuff goes from lower end to organizations I care about that can't pay me very much, but I want to do the work, to Fortune 500 companies that can pay me very well. But if I only have 3 of those and 10 of the others, it's not a great investment. And there's an opportunity cost. There's also, you have to honor your word. So if you say yes to something that's well below your rates, and then 2 weeks later, somebody comes back 5 times the amount offering you for that same date, you can't say yes. So it's not just the money, it's like the opportunity cost you've given up and my time. So many people will say, you're only speaking for 30 minutes. I can't believe you charge that much. I'm like, but I have to prepare. And if a lot of times I have to travel there, and usually it's a whole day ahead that I'm traveling, do the event and travel back that night or the following day. That's 2 or 3 days opportunity cost of work. And that's what I like to just mention there. How has comedy changed since you entered the field? I've only been in comedy professionally for 6 years now. So I think it was COVID right after I got into comedy, and then it was COVID. That was really reassuring, by the way. How it's changed. It used to be at the beginning that a regular comedy show is normally an opening act, a feature, and then a headliner. And it used to be that the producers would only allow one woman on the show. But it didn't matter if there was a show with three dudes, that's totally fine. But to have two or more women on a show, it was like unheard of unless it was an all women show. And then men didn't come because they thought it was a chick show. I think it's progressed some where people don't think that. There's still people who don't think women are funny. There's still people who believe that there should be a female on every show, but only one. I think that's going to probably be the way for a little while longer, but I'm a producer now as well. And I'm actually doing a show this Saturday with another female and one male. And somebody said, you're going to have two women on the show. And I was like, you better shut your mouth. It's like, well, what does it matter? If I had two guys, would you say anything to me about it? It's ridiculous. So I think the more women comedians that we have advocating out there and helping each other, I also think women comedians support each other more and help each other and take care of each other more, just because it's a really competitive space. And we're such a small, I think you're small in the military and comedy. We're like lonely over here. In fact, I don't even know very many women veteran comedians that are moms and married. I know some single or some that are, but I'm at loss if I even know more than one. Okay. Oh, thank you for putting my stuff in there. Yeah, robinphoenixjohnson.com. You can follow me on Instagram at robinphoenixjohnson as well. That's always helpful. And LinkedIn, I'm on there. That's how we get our followers, unfortunately, is our value to agents and bookers. They're like, how many followers do you have? Oh, I don't know. All right. My favorite female comedian. Gosh, I really love Taylor Tomlinson. I love Eliza Schlesinger, but Carol Burnett. I like some of the guys. I know that she's not a comedian and she's an actress, but one of the marvelous Mrs. Maisel came out at a time that I was transitioning into comedy, and it so inspired me as a woman. So if you haven't seen that, that's really good. And there's also a really good series called Hacks. So that's also about an older comedian. And again, and Leanne Morgan, she just came out with a Netflix special at 57 years old. I'm 49. I feel like it inspired me because I thought I was too late. I was like, this is too late. I can't do this. Who goes into comedy in their late 40s? This is ridiculous. And then I see all these people doing it on TV, and I'm like, you know what? They can do it. I can do it too. Age is just a number. All right. And I think I answered them all, and I'm right on time. Look at that.
You're
nailed it.
Thank you so much, Robin. It's so appreciated. I'm sitting in my office by myself, just laughing hilariously at what you had to say. So very much appreciated.
Thank you.
I put the website for Robin in the chat so you can get it there. And we're just going to wrap up today with some announcements about upcoming events, because we have put together programming for the entire year to help our community. Next up on Thursday, May 29th, we're having if you could go back one slide, thank you. We're having Mastering the Job Hunt 101. This is a webinar. This is free, so please register for that. Next slide. Our next OWLS session, number 3, is going to be on the 5th of June at 4 p.m. And the point of this panel is I really wanted to talk about how important our history is and how telling our stories and sharing our stories are super important. And believe it or not, we came up with this as a theme for a panel well before things started disappearing off the internet. So I think it's now even more important that we tell stories and talk to each other and share our stories and keep our stories for future generations. So that's going to be on the 5th of June. Please register for that as you did for this session, and that will also be free to attend. All right. You can also stay connected with us 24/7 with our virtual engagement center. It's an always-on platform where you can access all kinds of content, text, audio, video chats, connect with military-friendly employers and other resource providers. And lastly, as I said, we have a whole schedule of events to connect with you all within our community throughout the year. These are all available for you to look at militaryowls.org. And most importantly, we actually have all of these are virtual events except for November 7th. That is going to be an in-person and virtual event at George Mason University in Arlington. And it's our career coaching workshop. So we're looking forward to having the opportunity to meet face to face, but you can also attend virtually. You can learn about all of these things that I've just talked about so super quickly at www.militaryowls.org. We so appreciate everyone's participation, all the chat, all the laughs with Robin is so fabulous. So thank you so very much, everybody.